Hello you guys, Sentinel Gaming with another video, and today I made another Overwatch thingamajig thing because well, I really like doing the Hanzo thing and I'm playing a lot of Overwatch. I now made all of Tracer's abilities. Now, the last video turned out longer than I expected because, well, it was really 3 systems in one video, so I guess I could have guessed that it turned out to be it would turn out longer, but yeah, this one might be just as long, if not longer. And let's just get started. So, first of all, Tracer has 3 abilities. Her Blink, which is basically just a teleport in any direction she's looking. Yeah, that's basically it. Rewind, which lets her go back to a few seconds before where she was then. And a pulse bomb, which is basically an explosive that she throws. Now I'm gonna start with the Blink, which I have right here. You can see the chat freaking out as soon as I get this map in my hand, but yeah, basically I set this up to show the Blink. But yeah, if I go this direction, ta-da, go back to the middle and over here. Now I have this set up in only 8 directions. You can always do more. I always just do 8 to save myself some work, because I don't actually make this stuff for a map. I just make it for fun, so I'm not gonna go through the effort it takes to actually put in, like, I don't know, 16 directions, 32, a lot, so that it feels more accurate. So I just did 8, but if you just look in the general direction, you can see you go to the end of these stone paths. Now I can just kind of do this endlessly, because, well, you can really easily put cooldowns on it with either by making a scoreboard or just putting a cooldown on the time there is between you using the ability and getting a new map, which is what I use to activate it. So yeah, that's basically the Blink. It's really quite simple. And if you just spam right click, you break it. But yeah. Okay, next one. I'm not gonna show that yet, but I have them all in my inventory here. Now I just lost the Blink because I broke it. But yeah, I'm just first gonna explain this one. So this is a repeating command block, which is testing for anyone who has their second inventory slot selected, because you start with 0. So this is your slot 1 and this is slot 0. Because programming, that's basically in almost all programming languages and also in command blocks, I think. So yeah, if you have your second item slot selected and in that second item slot is an item named Blink, it will trigger the next command block, which is trying to clear a filled map. Now the reason I did this is so that it only activates when you have the map in your second slot. I have some extra ones over here. But you also have to right click it, because if it activates just when you're holding it, you end up teleporting all over the place like crazy. And that's not very good. So that's why I did this, just a double check for the activation. And then it sets this block right here to air, so that it doesn't keep testing for maps, so that it just activates and then stops testing, because it's came out positive. Then it sets a redstone block here, which basically just to activate this system. Now this system is basically just 8 times the same thing for different directions. So these are all the directions, testing for all the directions. I have them labeled east, south, all of them. I'll put them in the description with the rest of the commands, with the labels of east, southeast, south, southwest, all that stuff. So this is basically just TPing the nearest person, and because this is east, you can see east is towards the positive X, so it's teleporting them 8 in the X direction. Now if it's diagonal, it's teleporting them 6 in the X direction and 6 in the Z direction, which makes it southeast and in a diagonal line. Then it sets I believe this block back to air, 235, yeah, it sets the block that appears here. This one sets a redstone block here, and then that one set back to air once this activates. and then it will set a block a redstone block back at the beginning so that the system reactivates and give the player a new blink map. So it's really just that simple. It's just the activation system here, and yeah, that's basically the same for all of them. It tests for direction, TPs, sets all the blocks back to air, redstone blocks back to the way it was before you used it, and gives you a new map so you can use it again. And basically it's really easy to put a cooldown on this. Like I said, by delaying the time it takes to give you the map, or delay, or just deactivating this entire system by taking away this redstone block till the timer is over. And you can also really easily make sure that this works in multiplayer by just adding an objective called Tracer or something, and just only making TPing the player with the Tracer score of 1 or something like that. But I didn't do that because I'm a single player. So next system is the pulse bomb, which I will demonstrate first, of course. Luckily there are some porcelains around, so I'll just use it on this guy. And he didn't die. I think it's because the big guys have a lot of health. And also because I don't know if it landed properly, but yeah, that's the pulse bomb. As you can see, you probably have already noticed that's not really a bomb, it's a splash potion. But yeah, that's just a little trick. So this one, same activation system, but it's testing for the 3rd slot and an item named Pulse Bomb. Clearing the map, setting this block to air, the double take door there, and setting this block to redstone to activate this one. Then it's testing for the direction, and this is a somewhat longer command. It's executing at the nearest person. Once again, you can specify that this has to be Tracer via scoreboards. I have a tutorial on scoreboards, you can find it on my channel. I summon a thrown potion with a motion. Now the motion tag I also used in the Hanzo video, so I won't go over it too long, but basically it's motion, and then this is the motion in the X direction, Y direction, Z direction. You can input values there to make any entity go a certain way once it's spawned with a certain velocity. And then the potion, the ID is Splash Potion. Now this I actually had to figure out, because since 1.9 it's no longer the entire damage thing. It's Splash Potions actually have a separate ID, and then you can put on custom potion effects. So I put on instant damage 1. Now if you want to do this to do a lot more damage, you can just put it to 10, but I will leave it because then I'll have to add in all 8 directions, because otherwise it will do more damage in one direction than the others. Then it will set this block back to air, that's activating this, the block at the beginning, that's activating this clock back to redstone, and it will give you a new pulse bomb. But there's actually something more to this system, and that's these 2 clocks. And these 2 clocks basically make the explosion appear when you throw it. So when you throw the pulse bomb, there's actually an explosion right as it hits the ground. Now there's actually something weird about this. If I make the ground a little higher here and throw it up there, throw it up there, the explosion won't trigger. And if I throw it way up high, the explosion will keep triggering till it lands. Now the reason that is, let's see which one. I need to have this one first. I have a scoreboard set up called Age. And I think I actually have it on the sidebar here. You can see it counting up right there. And the scoreboard is actually, this command is actually constantly adding 1 score to this scoreboard for every thrown potion. So whenever there's a thrown potion in the world, it will constantly, every tick, get an extra score for the scoreboard. And when it hits 25, so when execute at E thrown potion, when it hits 25, this command will trigger, which will summon a particle of large explode with some pretty basic inputs for the particle command. And yeah, that's basically it. So you could make it so it triggers earlier, but it's really hard to know when it hits because of terrain. So I just did this way, because this way it triggers right as it hits the normal ground that's on the same level as you. And that's how I did the explosion, because it's supposed to be a bomb, so I still want the explosion on there. And yeah, you can also throw this in 8 directions for the same reasons I only did the blink 8 directions. Now the reason, the pulse bomb is actually her ultimate, but the reason I saved the rewind for last, because I think this one is actually the most interesting. Now I think I actually have this kind of turned off because there's one part of it that can be kind of hindering when you're building, so turn this on. And you can see the scoreboard as well as the chat are completely flipping out because there's a lot of stuff happening right now. So I'll just start by showcasing it by walking around, maybe flying into the air a bit. Here we go, and rewind, and it will get this all the way back here. So if we remember, I'm standing on this place right here, walk away from it a bit, and I rewind, and I'm back on there again, almost. It only rewinds a limited amount of space of time. Now it doesn't always rewind you back to a spot before, because if it just keeps standing still for really long and I rewind, I will basically just end up in the same spot, but I won't be able to properly move for a bit. So the reason the scoreboard is flipping out, and that it's also the reason that this works, is because of armor stands. Now I am gonna turn this off because it actually stops me from properly hitting stuff sometimes, like right mouse clicking and all that. So let's start with this same same triggering system with the map and the stuff. Already explained that. Sets that block to air, sets 2 blocks to air. Oh yeah, it's also setting this one to air whenever it activates, because then it will stop. That one, I'll explain what that one does later. It also sets the one next to that to air. It basically sets this entire row to air when triggered. And then it puts a redstone block right here. And this row is a giant row of all the same commands. It's TPing the nearest player. Once again, you can specify which player, which scoreboard. I don't have that set up because I'm a single player. And then it's TPing it to the nearest entity that is an armor stand, and has a minimum score, H score of 1, which is the same scoreboard we used before for the splash potion, and a maximum score of 1. So it basically has to be exactly 1. It has to be exactly 1 tick old. And then the next one's 3. I made jumps of 2 because otherwise it takes way too long to rewind. And then 25, it just keeps going all the way up to 49. And there's a reason for that, which I'll explain when I'm done with this. And then it TPs the player 1 block up. Also explain it later. And sets a redstone block at this last row right here. But before I get into this row, I will just explain all the stuff I said. I'll explain later. So basically what's happening is this one is constantly summoning armor stands at the player that have no gravity, so they will float wherever they're spawned and are invisible. And they are being summoned 1 block below the player, because otherwise you're not able to right click or left click anything because you're inside an armor stand. So if you walk back in your own trail, you probably won't be able to break anything or right click anything because of the armor stands. But if you're just walking, you should be fine because it's being spawned 1 block below. And that's why why at the end of the chain it teleports you 1 block up, because otherwise you'll be half in the ground at the end of the rewind. So basically this one is constantly summoning armor stands. Kind of realizing I should have done these first and then that one, but yeah. This is constantly summoning those armor stands. This is constantly doing the same it was doing for the splash potion, constantly every tick adding 1 score to the age of the armor stands, which is basically how old they are, how long they've been in this world. And then once they hit 50, this command block is killing them. So kill at the type's armor stand score minimum is 50. So that's why 49, because the minute the second the tick they hit 50, they die. So basically this is constantly creating a trail of armor stands behind you wherever you're walking. And if they're a certain age, so if you've been there a long time ago, they erase. So the trail always stays the same length. And then whenever you activate the rewind, it will teleport you first to the one that's newest to oldest. So that will basically take you all the way back to where you were standing about 50 ticks ago. Yeah, about that. I don't know. Maybe a bit more, but yeah, it will take you back like, I think it might be 10 blocks or something, depending on jumping and all that stuff. But yeah, it will basically take you all the way back, because it's TPing you directly to the armor stands. In the armor stands which spawned one below you, you will end up in the ground with the bottom half of your body, and that's why at the end of the chain it teleports you one block up. And then finally, this here is mostly just a reset of the system. So this one gets triggered, it kills all the armor stands, so that it's reset. It sets all the redstone blocks back, activating all the clocks, and gives you a new map named Rewind, and also sets this block right here and this block right here back to air. And yeah, these are activated again so that you can reuse the system. So I use the same scoreboard for both, but you can see that they're constantly counting down from 49 to 35, but they don't get higher than 49, because then they die. So yeah, I really liked making Tracer because I thought about it and I talked about it with some friends after I made the Hanzo video, and I thought it should be really cool to do. Mostly the rewind thing I really wanted to do, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.